meeting then, because it is 5:30 as far as my clock watch, my telephone said is 5:30 p.m. This is the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. Today is January the 12th, 2003, and it is 5:30 p.m. Our first order of business tonight is going to be a discussion with Attorney Paul Benedetti, whom we approved a contract with. And I did have some advanced conversation with him. I did send him information in advance to tell him some of the topics that TURA commissioners have talked about in the past that would like to get, it was a precursor to what we're going to do tonight. So we have other questions that's, pose them to him as we go. We'll see how he wants to do it. It'll be, basically his format as we proceed. But I did send him information. I gave him a copy of the urban renewal plan for the city of Trinidad. I sent him the comprehensive plan. That is in his hands. I sent him a copy of the La Puerta agreements. I did send him a copy of the TIF statement that we received from Los Animas County and some other documents that for him to be able to review. And maybe not all that discussed tonight, but I have given him that information in the past. And then we had a conversation as well a couple of days ago that was related to those cost share agreement, cooperation agreements that we have for the La Puerta, that we are a part of the agreement. So, I have sent him documents as we've gone, so he's looked at them and has been looking at it at the Trinidad Urban Renewal Plan as adopted in 2015, as well as the 2017 Comprehensive Plan, which the city adopted in 2017, and again, the other information. So we'll see how he wants to do it, and then we can do our Q&A as well.
Now, he is going to be, Chair, he's going to be open for questions, correct?
Yes, yeah. Well, while we're waiting for him to come online, maybe we can just go forward with the other, the business is short this evening because I want to allow as much time as possible for discussions and his input. So we'll move on and come back to item number 1 once he has joined the meeting. Item number 2 is the annual meeting that will be, our bylaws specify that our annual meeting is the meeting that occurs in February of each year. So next month will be the annual meeting, and that is the time that we elect chairman and vice chairman positions for the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. So that is the time and date that it happens each year, February meeting. Anybody have questions or anything on that? It's explained in the bylaws, so it's in there. Item number 3 is the Americana Road Project Pay Estimate number 11. And as of today, I don't have all signatures affixed on there. The only one so far is the signature from Robert Schultz, who is the representative of PVC Construction. So he's got it in. Jenny Jackson, who acts on behalf of the city that reviews those. As of yesterday, she hadn't received anything back from anybody. So again, approval of that tonight should be contingent upon all signatures being on there, which is the way it's happened. And I guess it's the timing of how it gets. They send their pay requests out at end of month, but by the time it goes through all the signatories that have to be on there, and then the pay schedule for this won't actually occur. The checks wouldn't be issued till the 20th. That's the pay cycle for the city. So once city council approves on the second Tuesday of the month.
Third Tuesday.
Yeah, that's when their approval, so the checks are cut the subsequent Friday. So that's when that will occur. So when that is moved, if there's a motion for that to happen this evening, then it should be contingent upon all of the required signatures. Same as we've done probably for the past number of months that it's been happening. Past 10 months, I guess, because it's monthly. Any questions on that?
Well, it only makes sense that way they're not held up to payment.
Yeah. Last month it was very, very close. They were calling before it got issued because it's $158,000, I think. So yeah, it does get very close. And again, the reason that we are doing that is we are named as the keeper of the funds, whatever you want to call it, in the development agreement with La Puerta. Item number 4, items for future discussion. And that may be one that we have to, once we get done talking with Paul this evening, that might be the one where it'll be the catalyst for what we want to put on subsequent meetings. So, if anybody has anything right now, we go ahead and put it on the list, but it may be one where if we don't have anything right now, information he provides us tonight might be the one that sets that stage going forward.
Well, I have if I may.
Yes.
I was gonna wait for my report, but since we need to put it on now from an agenda item, if we want to discuss it further. County Commissioners, Tuesday will meet. We will be having a discussion in executive session based on the comments made at the recent roundtable from Mayor Rico on Cougar Canyon. So at that time, I'm hoping that the board decides to move forward with a future work session with the city and with Urban Renewal, with our assessors and our treasurer's office, based on the comments that were made regarding Cougar Canyon from the mayor and where the city was at. So, could that
Do
be?
you want that to come on as a discussion item?
Well, for our next meeting, what, I hate to anticipate anything or speak out of turn for the commissioners, because they might say, no, we don't want to meet with the city, and I doubt they would do that, because they want to fix Cougar Canyon as much as I do. So I guess tentatively have a discussion on Cougar Canyon with the city of Trinidad at Urban Renewal at our next board meeting. I can give you more information after we have the Tuesday's meeting next Tuesday, if we're going to move forward with a work session with the city. But I think I'd like to have TURA at that work session as well, or members of TURA.
When will that occur?
We don't know yet. I have to ask the board if they want to have a work session first. That's the first process, and that's done in the executive board of county commissioners. That's done in executive session. If they say yes, then Mr. Nordenkamp will contact the city of Trinidad and try to set up a work session with Mayor Rico and with Urban Renewal as well, our treasurer's office and our assessor's office moving forward. And the comments that were made at the thing, it's open record, so it was an open thing, is to quote Mayor Rico, was Cougar Canyon is a nightmare. It's going to cost the city $200,000 in legal fees. We know how much millions of dollars is owed out there. So to me, it's kicking it down the road again.
If I may, this may help on this, because I had two items also for future, and coming just as the commissioner here, not what you have to kind of try and triangulate to make happen. I would like to have us have a discussion and prep ourselves for Cougar Canyon. Of where are we? So when we do get invited to any of these meetings, we're prepped and ready to go. We understand where this. So that's one I would like to on a future meeting. And the second is Blight House number 1. I'd like to make sure that that's on a future, so we can keep moving forward.
Yeah. So basically, it's all about blight, regarding blight. And
That's-
Cougar Canyon would be the main.
And opportunity.
The hotel would probably be the main one.
That's 1700 Arizona you're talking about.
Yes. So those are the two items. So they one stacks right on top of them.
And I'm just
Commissioner
going to
Lopez.
I was going to keep elaborating until we get our Paul on the line here. I think it's time that we use every tool in the toolbox, even if Urban Renewal is one of those tools, to move forward with that. And here's the reason why, is the county can move forward, treasurer's office on treasurer's deeds and all of these collection of these unpaid taxes, and move forward and either abate the old taxes on them, which is over 14 million right now, put it back into the circulation for building. But who's going to want to build with an eyesore to look at? And that's the biggest problem, and the hotel is what I'm talking about.
Can I just interject for 1 second, because obviously I'm just taking it all in. What is Cougar Canyon? Is that development on
East of town?
Okay,
And the-
so
The hotel, there's a hotel up there that was being built and it's abandoned and was never completed, and it's dilapidated.
And it was vandalized.
And vandalized.
It had been a golf course, been a resort. 2008 came in, that crisis went through. These guys went belly up. A lot of bad actors, many bad actors in that as well. Yes, it's a can of worms that actually needs to be opened and see what kind of worms we have. We have fishing worms, or we have really deadly worms. it's something that really needs to, but you'll find a lot of information. with
And I
regards to
can give you more information outside of this office. If you want, just give me a call and I'll give you kind of up to date. The treasurer's office can give you all the background on the taxes owed out there. The assessor's office can give you all the evaluations. The main problem is until we move forward with Cougar Canyon, it stays off the tax roll. We're not collecting any money. So that hurts our school districts, Honey and Trinidad. Trinidad gets a portion of that. Our ambulance district, our fire districts, but mainly the school district's on top of everything because the state sees that there's revenue coming in, but it's not being paid on. So they lose out on revenue for their schools. So it's a lot of, it's a big mess, it really is, but I think it's time we have the conversation how to fix it. It's just time, enough of kicking it down the road. I mean, it's been years.
It's why I took the seat here.
At least 12 years.
It's why I took this seat here.
So they have a metro board, a metro district taxing for 55 meals. So the city needs to seat that board, that's the first action, and then they go from there. And here's the good thing, the county did hold back two or three properties at the last auction in November. So the county does own property out there. So we can put a county member on that metro board, possibly, if they're elected. They have an election for that. So we can see the table.
Okay, so going forward, because we are discussing things which really aren't agenda items tonight, so we're gonna make that agenda items next week. So here's two things that need to happen. We can bring them on as an agenda item. But besides talk about it that night, we're gonna need some facts, figures, and other information. Who's going to be?
I'll get that.
Okay, you'll be the gathering point.
I've got a good packet too of information with regards to Cougar Canyon and some things that were very, very hard to find. Not just the forensics report, but some of the other stuff was very hard to find that I had people share with me a while back.
Okay, so the process on that is, okay, if you've got it, we need to collect it.
And I'll get that to you probably a week before the meeting so you can include it in the packet.
Yeah, it needs to be, if you can send it to me so we can send it out, if you have it in electronic format, send it to me.
And
So
it either come from me or from the clerk, from the treasurer's and the assessor's office. We're trying to get hold of it. So we'll get the information.
Very good. Very good.
That'll be very interesting.
It's one of the reasons why we exist, in my mind, to do the hard stuff.
Have you ever been down to Cougar Canyon?
I passed it, there's
it is.
a statue of a cougar over there. That's the only way I do it, is Cougar Canyon.
Okay, I can give you I can send you the URL. Okay, well, I'll give,
2008.
oh, it's on the agenda, on the agenda sheet. If you look on, yeah, it says that please join my meeting from your computer, tablet, or smartphone, and it gives you the URL on there.
I'm surprised someone came in and took it.
Okay, yeah, it's on the header.
I've seen him in Zoom meetings, so I know he's done this before. Actually, everybody's done this now, right? You can't hide. What's
Did they
that?
disappear? The people that.
Is that right?
Just disappear or?
Yeah, go to meeting is a little tough. I'm not a fan. I'm a Zoom. Well, save a lot of my business work with folks, you know, so it's a tool.
It's increased by workload.
Oh, I would imagine.
I think I sent it on Monday.
I control most of that with regards to myself. You have to coordinate with lots of entities. That must be a nightmare.
It's a lot.
I'd say two of my questions have to do with
Tomorrow we have 3 meetings with the CT.
Only looking to take over something.
I'll give you the URL if you want to type it in.
Losing a lot of
Sure.
And what is that? What's the name of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have them through the table for national level as well.
You'd be a good
The
rep.
9th?
34 boards collectively that do this.
You guys need to step down from some of those things, because some of those things, and I know it's hard to get people to sit in those things, but some of those things, actually, you get conflicted with some of the other things, you know?
Yes.
Well, no, it's a yes.
There's times where, and permanent rail is
Yeah,
exactly
it does. I do understand.
to discuss your own community agenda.
I mean, it sounds like something that has to get resolved, right? You can't go on like that.
I'm saying conflicted, because my position would be, yes, I know, like, and trust Luis, and he's my great county commissioner. But But you know, I love you as a representative, I've lived for you as long as you want to run. What I'm saying
The
is, though,
scope of this work.
that I think some other boards need a different perspective than people sitting in that seat. And other folks need, because if you end up having too many people, too few people serving in too many areas, you end up having the ideation.
It's HTT,
Exactly. And it's not bad, it's just that you don't get any countering thoughts. It's like all groups that are just guys. It sure loses some things. Not getting you, so do other folks. I just think it just reduces the number of ideas that can come forward.
there's 2 forward slashes, HTTPS, ://
I'm not sure legally.
That's exactly
I don't know.
I mean, if it's.
dot go to GOTO
I understand the city's position, they want to spend.
.com.
$1,000 in legal fees, but
for
a couple $100,000, say,
Okay, it's, yeah, //
Well, and bring, you can bring that information too. And you can actually bring that.
58
Right.
That I would have in my region.
77 49.
But the main goal of
Legal
the
divorce.
Fashion Bureau is to have.
We work for that.
Yes.
This organization.
Exactly. Now, some people can do it, some people can't.
It's the city's lawyer.
And again, I don't trust you on that. I don't.
There's nothing right there. A lot of people can't do that.
Can't do it.
Well, I
Just
know
not-
what.
And actually, they're doing it for the opposite reason. They want to make sure
The city
they stop
lawyer,
ideas from
you see
coming
on
in,
the staff.
and they grab that seat. I'll sit in that seat. Exactly.
I'm not sure.
So the board of health was kind of concerned when I come 100,000 to go in there, try to control
But I would, no,
the. during-
I'm not quoting.
I work for the board of health. And I got the
I'm just,
60,000.
you know, letting it all out as we go along.
Yeah, I can compartmentalize, but at the same time, I don't want to make myself too thin either,
actually.
you know, because I really want to bring my best
To come in the
to
middle.
home, to kids, to grandkids, to work, to here. It's done.
It's okay.
It's done.
Commissioner Lopez, what was I gonna ask you? Is, Les Downs the city lawyer, right? Is he considered staff or is he considered?
I think he's contractual.
Contractor.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not an employee, so he'd be contractual.
And could you please tell me what Shrevepur's new construction company is called?
It's not Keller Glass, well, you'd have to ask me, it's right up there by the movie picture show, that's the one.
I cannot think.
It's Western Civil,
Western Civil, yes.
and he's probably still as you.
Let's not even go there. You know that big mess?
I think that's the biggest concern for some members is getting him back on that board. You know what, we have to figure it out, either he's on it, fine, go forward.
It's not, if that's stopping you, put him on the board and just work hard to actually make sure that I'd rather have people on the board that are actually, would be the detriment than having them outside throwing rocks at the building. You know what I mean?
Because when you're on the inside, it's kind of hard to throw rocks at your own house.
That's exactly right. So if that seems to be, you're right, that seems to be one of the concerns of not being able to do that. And there really is that crab mentality sometimes in the bucket. As soon as one crab looks like it's gonna get out and get in the ocean, the other crabs grab it back and keep it in the bucket, you know?
Okay, you got the access code?
Yeah.
Oh, you're in.
There it is.
You're in.
All right.
Okay, I'll hang up the phone and we'll talk.
Used to be called
Okay.
Turn your cam on.
This happened. After a few years, they started them coming. It just usually happens to people.
You with us, Paul?
Can't be muted.
Paul, you muted? Chairman Gregory? I'd be okay if he just used the thing to call in, and we were able to see it, you know, too, if he wants to use that as the. Almost heard something.
Can you hear us, Paul?
Technology. Gotta love it.
It's easier if you do, right? Or at least you're not an enemy of it, because the
that's
the computer technology guys will get even.
That's why I have kids.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
We can't hear you on.
It looks like he's logged on.
He can keep muted though, and call the phone number and use his phone to talk to
Yeah.
us through this.
You just want to go ahead and make the call?
Well, hold on a second, I'm trying to see, I'm almost there. I'm trying to get my, I don't know, it's asking me all kinds of things I don't wanna do, all I wanna do is mute.
Go to meeting, make sure you conform that.
No, we can't hear you over the mic. You wanna make the call, that you can
Go to
use
me.
My
the
husband, I
telephone
used to
too.
have to go for for P&Z, I used to have to go in and log in. Because he couldn't- he had a problem.
I can you hear me now?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can work off this if it's more convenient at this point, since we have you online.
Okay, listen, I apologize, this is terrible.
Matt,
I
let's
have,
move on.
I apparently have not, this app is not downloaded on my computer, and it's not working very well.
Okay, well, we'll just go with phone conference for now and, wherever we need to go, so, I informed the commissioners that you and I have had some, communication pre-meeting so that you could, have an idea what it is that the commissioners would like to discuss. And so you and I talked about, I sent you some documents, so if you wanna make a presentation and take a few questions.
Well, yes, what would you want me to cover first, Ed?
Well, one of the things that we mentioned that some commissioners have discussed the possibility or want to know some detail on House Bill 1348. We adopted our plan in 2015, actually the month prior before 2016, when HB 1348 went into effect. And so, the question was by commissioners in the past was, one, can we make some updates to our plan? Is 1348 something that's viable? Is it necessary? What's your opinion on going to 1348 compliant with all those various things that it involves?
Well,
Can you hear?
you're gonna have to do it sometime, I think, if you're going to want to go ahead with your urban renewal program. It's not as daunting as maybe it would have been when 1348 first passed, because the statute has been changed and modified, and we have experience in other communities of working with the taxing entities, and actually, I think overall it's been a plus as far as getting things done. The only problem is that it does involve a lot more paperwork, a little more red tape. You have to, in your case, the problem that Ed and I discussed is that since you're a separate board, the statute says you have to have 13 members now all of a sudden. And I was thinking that we might have an agreement maybe with the county and the school district and whoever they decide to appoint to represent the special districts, that maybe you won't have to go to 13, that they could appoint their 3 and then the mayor could appoint 1 to make an odd number. And that would give you how many? 11? Did we say, Ed?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if you can't find if you can't make it to 13, maybe we can try that. The other thing is, I have brought it up several times with the Municipal League and with Downtown Colorado Inc. that we need to change this. And I brought it up yesterday on the call with Downtown Colorado Inc. Your problem, and maybe if there's some, if you can get perhaps your representative to bring it up, or he would like to introduce the bill, I could try to help and get those entities to support changing the 13-member requirement. Otherwise, it's a relatively simple process. I'm just going through it right now in Loveland. I've just gone through it in Durango. I went through it with Frederick recently in Montrose. Colorado Springs, when they went through it, I was representing some private developers at that time, and they didn't seem that it all went fairly smoothly. And in your case, unless you have something major that you're going to do a major amendment to your plan, you don't necessarily have to do it. But if you adopt a new plan, you will.
Okay.
Now, yeah, the way it works is this: the county appoints anybody it wants to as its representative. The school district has to appoint a member, an elected member of its board, and then one of the special districts that levy taxes in Trinidad, those entities have to get together and select one elected member to a board to represent all their interests. So you have 3 new members. You can't force them to appoint. You have to wait until they do it. But you continue working. That seat just remains vacant. Yeah, I neglected to say I went through this with Pueblo too here recently, and they have 2 school districts, and they have not yet decided who to appoint for the school district representative. So for about the 2.5, 3 years, that position's been vacant.
So you can still operate under 1348 with a vacant seat as long as you're attempting and you give an invitation for people to do that. This is Commissioner Howlett, by the way.
Yeah, yes. As long as you send them a letter is what you do. I mean, there's just not much to do it. In fact, I got an email today saying, well, what do we do with the county's appointed a new member? What do we do? And I said, welcome that person to the board. And if the custom is to swear in your board members, then swear them in and congratulate them and welcome them to the board.
Paul, this is Luis Lopez. Question for you. Under the 1348, are these additional board members voting members as well?
Yes, they vote. They're regular members of your board, but while they're there, they're acting as board members, not as, in their other seat.
Okay, you have joined us on go-to-meetings, Paul.
I found the button. Okay, can you hear me on the mic there?
Yes.
Yes.
Chairman,
Okay.
can we go through
Hold
some
on a
questions?
second, let me turn this on. All right. I'm sorry about the way I look, ladies and gentlemen. This is me in my office. I just got back in my office today because I had a water leak right above my desk. So I've been running around all over the house in different spots trying to work.
Okay,
Okay, I'm glad I finally overcame technology differences.
okay. Well, while you're on it, and you can see us, let me go around the table and around the DIE and introduce everybody that's here, Paul, for your reference. And I think you've met probably Commissioner Pat Howlett at like the DCI meetings or the,
Good to see you again, Paul.
you might recall
I
him.
remember.
This is Commissioner Luis Lopez, and he is also a county commissioner for Los Animas County.
Hello, Paul.
Hello.
Sitting next to me on my left is our newest appointed member, Jeff Heck.
Hello, Paul.
Hello.
And from, to my left of him is Commissioner Sophie Leone.
Hello, Paul.
Hello.
Yeah. I do have two board members that were traveling today, so we're unsure whether or not they're gonna make the meeting or not. So we do, after a long time, have a full sitting board of 7 members. However, sometimes it doesn't happen that they're all in the same room at the same time, but that's what we've got going on right now. So, anybody else have any questions?
Yes, I have several.
On 1348,
Yes, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
you're on.
Jump in. Welcome, Paul. I think we're all pleased that you're going to help us navigate these legal challenges and opportunities. With regards to 1348, and I like that you kind of laid that out a little bit. To me, it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like with bigger projects, bringing these folks that do our stakeholders, and we'll have a vote, school districts, metropolitan districts, counties, the assessors, have you found that to be beneficial with some of the big projects of actually having those people at the same table, talking through these issues and being able to work through those that now versus having a smaller board and trying to do outreach to metro district representatives or boards or school districts and try and play that way? Have you found it speeds up the process a bit?
Well, it has its pluses and minuses as usual. That's what attorneys usually say. But it's there, so you're going to have to deal with it if you want to do something new. And the one drawback is sometimes some of the taxing entities, a practice has worked up about sharing of tax increments when and if you can generate them. The beneficial thing is if you get the members on your board, as your county commissioners there with you this evening, and they understand a little better what you're trying to do. It's a lot easier to get the support of the school district and the county and whatever special districts you may have a problem with. Do you have a fire district there?
No. Well,
No.
I don't know if
We have 3, 4.
Only?
Fisher's Peak, Honey, Stonewall,
but they're rural.
with the rural
They're
fire
rural,
districts.
so we
They're
wouldn't
not
be
in Trinidad.
taking any TIF from them.
Okay, well, all I'm saying is, I think it's, we haven't had as many fights with the taxing entities since 1348, because now they feel like they're invested in the program. There's a little more red tape involved, there are more agreements. If you start out with say you're gonna do a new project in Trinidad, you have to do your urban renewal plan, you have to do your condition survey, your urban renewal plan, and then you have to do a rather elaborate impact report based on what you think is going to happen in your project area. And sometimes it's difficult because if you adopt a plan, you're not exactly sure what's going to happen. So you
your finance director, or you have to hire a consultant to prepare an impact report. And then when you get all three of those things, if you're going to get ready to do your project, you send all three of those to each of the taxing bodies that levy in your proposed boundary area, and then you have to meet with them and negotiate with them. And we've developed an agreement now that says, okay, we've looked at this. If you can show some damage to the, for instance, the county, if the county says, well, this is going to impact our services or our revenues, I found it's difficult. Very rarely does anyone really show an impact, because you're just working on revenue that hasn't been created yet. So, but sometimes you do have a problem. Say if you have a fire district and you're going to add new improvements, sometimes they need more fire equipment, something like that. That's the sort of impact that they're measuring. But then you get them to, before you even have your public hearing or go forward with your plan, you get those affected taxing entities to sign an agreement that, and whatever TIF you haven't had to share. Sometimes, you're frankly in a position where you have to share some TIF even though you don't think you should. But just to get something done, you have to figure out if you can make your project work with whatever projected tax increments you're going to have. And I know in some communities such as Trinidad, it's hard to generate TIF, period.
Well, that's exactly right.
So that is why one of the things that I'm thinking you may want to consider is breaking out some areas and maybe having going forward with a smaller urban renewal plan.
Paul,
area by area.
may I interrupt you, because I have a few questions, and one of them actually addresses where you're going to right now, but I want to kind of stay specific to that. So you found that there's obviously good and bad with regards to 1348, but bringing people to the table, you've seen that to do that. And my next question has to do with, I see some issues, and I think others do as well, with our founding documents and agreements, and nobody did anything wrong. It's just that 2015 and 2017 were entirely different times all over the place, but especially here. And we have documents and founding documents and agreements, and much has changed since then to 2023. Much has changed since 2020 to 2023. And I'm looking forward to you helping us address some of these things. And one of the major challenges that I see is we don't, in our current plan, there aren't many opportunities, as you just pointed out, and with regards to our Urban Renewal Authority and TIF opportunities here. And so I think our greatest challenge right now is getting the old Cougar Canyon project out of mothballs and back into even some reduced state of benefit for the people of Los Animas and Trinidad. And so how much do you know about the history with regards to Cougar Canyon? Because the hotel would be considered blighted. I don't think anybody's going to look at that we could have at the table and say they're harmed by us taking and putting that project back into some productive form. I think they're harmed by it being in the situation it's in right now of just neglect, safety, and blight, and no opportunity for the county or any of the districts to get any TIF. And so with regards to that, I want to roll that into, I see an opportunity for us as we're creating a new plan and updating our founding documents to match even the city's comprehensive plan of 2019. 2017 isn't even what the city's using for their own comprehensive plan. It's been updated 2019. I see an opportunity for us to while we're creating this, have multiple URAs, not urban renewal authorities, but urban renewal areas, projects, and be able to do the same agreement we have with the city right now regarding this current, the current downtown and Trinidad proper, and a different URA, urban renewal area or project that would be Cougar Canyon, and start negotiations and agreements specific to its challenges and its needs. That's something we can do, is it not?
Yes, but, well, you have to be careful that you're not, impairing any financial obligations. But I understand from Ed, I don't know anything about Cougar Canyon, by the way, but I understand from Ed that right now you're in a decrement situation because, your assessed values now in your entire area is below the base. And then one of the things about your urban renewal plan is that it excludes all single-family residential.
Yes.
And, you know, sometimes, so that would leave, that's like a Swiss cheese plan area. You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly.
So that if you wanted to do something with the residents, that's not included, that's not in your plan area. So you'd have to amend the plan to put that particular property in there, which is probably not, you know, but you still then, the problem you have with trying to, even with your existing contract there with your existing developer, since you're not up over your base, even though their project in their smaller area is producing and is over, you know, producing tax revenue, it's not enough to get the whole area up to the base, so you can't give them any TIF money. And so that's what you'd have to do, I think, is, you know, maybe bring in somebody like Andy Arnold, who, you know, I've been working with, to just sort of, this Cougar Canyon hotel you're talking about, you know, does it make sense to carve out? Is that in the area now?
And it is blighted, it has been vandalized, it is uninhabitable.
Yeah, but is it in the city limits?
Yes.
It's in the TURA boundaries now.
It's in our boundaries.
It's in a special.
It is?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then you'd have to amend your plan and carve it out if you're gonna wanna do a separate project for that.
I guess what I'm looking at, when you're looking at this, Paul, are you seeing it any way, when you look at our documents right now, and you've looked at our current plan, and you know that we have an inability to get TIF on residential property, is there any way we can move forward constructively and do what an urban renewal authority wants to do without opening up 1348?
Well, sure, if you had TIF available, you could.
But again, we don't.
Well, we have to.
I mean, if your area was over the TIF, you could do, yes, you can do a lot of things just by agreement. You can, for instance, and this is done, it's a little bit clumsy, but, you know, for instance, in a DDA, a Downtown Development Authority has a whole lot downtown in it. But, just by definition. And then if you want to do a TIF agreement on it, and just say, we'll give you the TIF that you produce, property owner A, within the larger boundary, and that's what you've done with the Chimino group. That's exactly what you've done. But the problem is, he doesn't get anything, they don't get anything because your base isn't up. If you get your base up, you could do an agreement, say with Cougar Canyon. You could just carve that piece out, have the same kind of agreement you have with Chimino, with those owners or somebody that wants to develop that property. But if you want to do something right, if you don't think you're going to get above your base anytime soon, you know, that if you want to do something relatively quickly, you'd probably have to think about carving that out into a separate urban renewal area.
Well, Paul, we are above base. Okay, we're not below base, but the TIF that we're receiving has taken a hit, and it has shrunk from the numbers.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
maybe you can tell me that.
Yeah,
you're above your base.
We're not under base. Okay, we're still collecting TIF, but at a substantially reduced amount from what it was. And I'll give you for example. In prior year, at one of our high points, we were getting we got TIF in the range of like $40,000 plus or minus, but 40,000 plus. It was not much more. That TIF that we realized in 2000 and that we just got in this past year for the prior year, we got TIF. I think we're just around the $23,000 mark. And so that part is reduced. In our most recent meeting with the county assessor, she did indicate that we're going to see that reduced in the coming year as well for various factors with, certain properties that are no longer income producing because they're publicly owned. A lot of the personal property, a lot of the numbers on the personal property have shrunk from over 300 down to less than 100. So that, and all of that, albeit maybe on a couple of other exemptions, is going to be temporary, but we're expecting TIF to be in the next year. I've estimated it based on the drop from what we just got in the 23,000 range, probably down in the $17,000, $18,000 range in what we'll collect in this coming year. So we're not void of TIF, but we're not collecting a lot of TIF.
Okay, I thought, for some reason, I thought I heard you say decrement, but you're not. Okay,
Well,
good.
It's a form of
That's good.
decrement.
I
It's
mean,
just
even
not.
though it's shrunk, I'll tell you one of the problems that you're having, and I don't want to get into weeds too much, but the assessor's handbook has had some real bad stuff in there since 2017 when they rewrote it. Now there's litigation going on that you may have heard about. It's in the Supreme Court. Aurora Urban Renewal Authority and a couple of developers, they're suing the assessor over there because they put too much value in the base versus the increment. And so what I think happened to you there is when I've been around long enough that I worked on that handbook with the man who drafted it. And one problem that we discussed and that we put in the handbook as it was then, when a property, you have an existing urban renewal plan, a property goes off the tax rolls, you apportion the hit between the base and the increment, so that the base gets reduced by the same ratio that it bears to the increment. You see what I mean? But I think what the assessor has probably been doing and what they is taking everything off the base, off the increment, so that if property goes off the tax rolls, the increment gets hit more than the base does. The base stays whole. Well, okay, say you're only going to get 17,000. Well, you're still above the now. The way you would calculate it then, how much of that money does Chimino get? Because if he has,
Well, let's call that La Puerta.
pardon?
That project is known as La Puerta.
Not Chimino.
I didn't hear that
Yeah,
last part.
the project that we're talking about, that one is, the cooperation agreement is called La Puerta.
Okay, yes, all right, I'm sorry. I noticed one thing in your agreement. There's a blank in there for the base for that property, and it never was filled in. You see what I mean?
Yes.
When you have a property like that you're giving the TIF that it produces, you have to put a number in there so that you know that they've also added to the base value. And there's a blank in there, but I noticed that it never was filled in. So, the one thing that maybe, I don't know, as smaller municipalities have a problem, and, that you're probably working with the city finance director, is that right?
Yes.
On these calculations? Or maybe,
No, that's,
there's somebody there, you guys are skilled at math?
yeah,
You have to sit down and figure out how much of the 17,000 that you could pay to that developer, under that existing agreement, but you'd have to go back and figure out what that base was for that property, that number that's supposed to be in that agreement.
but isn't the TIF that they collect from within that district, the applicable TIF returned to them?
Well, yeah, but you have to know how much it is. Some of that property is attributable to base. That's why you have two calculations. First you have the calculation is your urban renewal area above the base. And then when you sign the agreement with the property owner, it's usually their current assessed value on whatever you're agreeing to give them TIF revenue on. It's this little area within the larger area,
Right.
you know, and you have to have a base value for that little area too, so you can see how they're performing. They may not produce any TIF, so if they're not above their base, they shouldn't get any money
Right.
Right.
unless they produce TIF. That's the way it works.
Right.
You know, I mean, I've done these. These are very, very common agreements, but they do take a little bit of calculation, and you'd have to do the same thing with this Cougar Canyon Hotel. If you did it, you'd have to do it the exact same way. Have a similar type agreement. Everybody words theirs a little differently. I'd have a little different format, but it would work out the same. There'd be a property base for that Cougar Canyon area. It wouldn't have to be a separate project necessarily. You wouldn't have to implicate 1348 now if you didn't want to. But you could do the exact same thing you've done with your existing development agreement.
But Paul, if we wanted to update our agreements, and as you noticed, we don't get TIF on any single family residence, which has really hindered us a lot. And just opening that up in the agreement with the city in order to do that, that opens up our plan, correct? If we're trying to match our plan from 2015 and 2017 to 2019 and 2023, aren't we opening up that plan? And
yeah, well, if you want to do it, you could certainly amend it to put in every single family dwelling within those boundaries.
well, and that's something we have to be.
Tell me,
That would have to be agreed to and negotiated with the city.
Yeah, the city's the ultimate, has to agree to that as well, right?
Yeah, but then a lot of people are going to show up and say, what are you doing? Why are you putting me in this thing? I assume it was left out for a reason. And I thought maybe it might have been just because that was a concession maybe to the taxing entities that you weren't going to take the TIF from those properties.
I think there were certainly lots of concessions,
If you
yes.
wanted to include certain residences, you could just amend your plan and say this particular we talked about the one property I think you're interested in that you say is vandalized and a real danger. You could amend the plan,
I'm less
a
interested.
minor amendment, and put that one in without triggering 1348.
I'd be okay honoring the agreement that this was set up with the city with regards to our current area. I don't see that hotel ever coming back, so I don't really want to talk about the hotel at Cougar Canyon. But I do believe there are a lot of home sites available right now that hotel may need to be just taken down and moved out to some landfill in time. But I do see an opportunity to not changing so much TIF and single-family residence in the current plan, and change and turning the card over there. I would like to see an urban renewal area at Cougar Canyon to where in that agreement, since there's no housing there at all, that we can get the city to agree to allow us to have TIF out there, retail if anything ever comes, retail sales tax if anything comes from that, and allow those organizations out there to start developing so it would enrich the county, the city, the school districts, get the metro districts off there. And so that's why I've asked, is there a way to have our current agreement here as it is and not turn the card over, but with certain areas that we want to do projects with property owners that may be willing to come to the table and other stakeholders that would be interested in doing that, set that agreement up to where we get residential TIF there. We get retail sales tax TIF. We can actually do some things because at a declining 40,000, 23,000, 17,000 TIF revenue, there is not much this board can do unless we get some magic sticks or something.
Okay, well, you can do that. Yes, I've done that. I've done it twice this year already. I'm doing it right now. Amend an existing plan that is not subject to 1348.
Yes.
And it stays under the old regime, because you can't disturb any of those, pledges anyway.
Right.
You'd have to make sure that you're not hurting, you'd have to recalculate the base, of the remainder property of the existing plan, or you take the piece out, now your base and increment maybe change a little bit. How big is this area you're thinking about in Cougar Canyon? How big a percentage?
Potential
of the
1,700
entire area?
lots, potential 1,700 lots or more.
Right.
Potential 1,700 lots or more. A water already there, lift station already there, big
Is
investment
it
in the,
more than 10% of the area?
no.
No, I don't think it would involve that particular plot, or whatever you wanna call it. I don't think it exceeds 10%. That would be close. It could,
It's a good size.
it could equal to, or maybe exceed 10% of the entire, area of the city of
Geographic
Trinidad. Yeah, it might.
It's big.
Well,
It's our
even so,
opportunity
you
though.
could still keep, it would be, if it's a major amendment, then you're supposed to involve the taxing entities in your existing project too. However, the one thing they changed in the statute, to make 1348 work, because when they passed it, it impaired every urban renewal project in the state for 2 years. They can't, any amendment or change cannot impair any financial obligations that people have relied on. So there's a way to do it. I think, if I knew more facts, I could advise you a little better, but it's.
And I don't want to take you too much into the weeds right now. I just want to make sure, go kind of looking forward and setting the table for opportunities that may be out there. You've answered that kind of question. I've got one last one for Commissioner Cochran. We have 31 homes in Trinidad that are considered blight, and what we're doing with one of them, we've kind of started down the road of testing the waters for buying that property, working with the city with some of their housing dollars, $25,000, putting that, addressing that, fixing it up, selling it on the market. We won't get TIF from it, but we would maybe get almost a developer profit from regards of what we purchase it for and what we sell it at market value. We have 31 of these. I'm trying, what Commissioner Cochran has kind of proposed is, how can we address blight with our current agreements and the current tools we have, and bring housing, 31 in this case, back into the market that is desperately needed, like every place else needs affordable housing. Have you done any work in that kind of specific area? And can we do this without having to go, although some of these things are just abandoned properties, can we take this all the way to the point of eminent domain in order to bring some of these properties back into the marketplace?
Well, yes, I'm working on them, and yes, there's a way to do it. Yet, so do these properties, I assume they have like the liens on them, from the city?
Some of them do, city, county, et cetera, yes.
Okay, so what we're doing in Pueblo, we're trying to get, you would think it would be going forward a little better, trying to get, the city actually has foreclosed on some of those lots. And so what you could do is maybe have the city foreclose on them rather than have eminent domain. And then, if you can even work with the owners and say, look, I would do this. I would amend the plan every time you want to work with one of these properties, and put that specific property in the plan so that it's in there now. It's a minor amendment, and now that's going to produce some TIF. So you get a little extra money to work with.
Well, we won't get TIF. We won't get TIF, Paul, because Paul, we won't get TIF because we can't get TIF from single-family residential.
If you amend the plan and put it in, you can.
Okay.
I'm saying, you say the plan boundary now includes 228 X Avenue property. You can put each of these specific properties within the boundaries just by amending your boundary.
Yeah, the city has to approve that, and I really would not to like to have to, I'd like to find a way
You don't
around
think
that.
the city would do that?
Open up,
You mean-
I mean, what I was trying to do is come up with a way that you could,
yeah,
you know, you could avoid eminent domain. You work with the owner, unless, you know, they don't want to work with you. Get the city to pay off the city's lien out of the tax increments it produces. And then the benefit for the taxing entities to go along is now this property is back on the tax rolls, and long term, it's going to, you know, it's going to benefit.
and there's a way,
The other taxing entities.
and Paul, there's a way of doing that specific to these 31 properties without having the city agree to share TIF for the current residential properties that are in our area?
Well, they would have to agree to do it. They'd have to agree to amend the plan. Only the city council can amend the plan. And you don't think they do it?
Well, the reason that they were excluded, going back to 2015 when the plan was drafted and accepted, is because the city's concern at that time, and this was at a time when commercial development and the downtown core commercial district, as it was referred to then, that was the concern for the city of Trinidad, that things weren't happening, but subsequent to that, and by happenstance, certain things did happen, so the inventory and number of buildings that are located or are located in downtown Trinidad, that number of dilapidated and blighted conditions was it remediated a lot of it itself. So, you know, the full thrust of what it was for was actually for the consideration was for the core commercial district and the blighted areas of there. So that's why it became it was restricted to the commercial, industrial, multi-use, and vacant properties. That's what that was. The city at that particular point was not looking at having the Urban Renewal Authority active in the actual residential areas.
It makes sense.
Well, I understand that, and you can do this without, I mean, I'm just saying, to get 13 properties that are blighted and, you know, not doing anybody any good, back on the tax rolls and in productive use, you know, I'm just saying, it doesn't seem to me, out of all the residences that are in Trinidad, if you just put these specific properties in on a case-by-case basis, so that the Urban Renewal Authority then has some power over them and can work. You can do this maybe by agreement with the city, but all I'm saying is you can produce a little bit of extra money from the TIF that those properties would then maybe produce, and that would help pay for some of the cost of getting those, you know, demolition.
So Paul, just to clarify then, we can, just to clarify then, we can do this specific to those 31 properties without having to have the city share revenue on the current residential agreement that's out there right now? You can do it specifically just if the city agrees to this with 31 properties, not opening up the whole area, we can do that? That's been done?
Yeah, you're not impairing any existing agreements, because those properties within the boundaries of that
Yes.
of that other development?
No, not within Cougar
The
Canyon.
Puerta?
They're here.
No.
There wasn't the boundaries
Okay.
of Trinidad.
Well, then they're completely separate, and they'd be separate agreements. They wouldn't affect them. It would, you know why it would help them? It'd get you up over it'd keep your TIF revenue maybe up over the base, because now these properties are just a drag on there.
Right.
I mean, there's a way to do it that way. It's a little more complicated, but it'll work.
Nice. Thank you.
I mean, I've done this in other areas. You know, for instance, Brighton had some of these little enclaves that were outside of their project area, and we just amended the plan to bring them in, and then we had a separate agreement just applied to that property. It's a mini version of your existing agreement. It have different terms. What are you gonna do? And maybe the owners who can't afford to do, they for whatever reason, they're not taking care of the property, or like, it's like my hometown of Walsenburg, that some of them are fire damaged. I've been talking to Walsenburg about this for a long time, and it's not unique. Pueblo has these areas, and they're just trying to get the city to cooperate, the Urban Renewal Authority, and maybe you get some, housing that's affordable for people that need housing. Do you have a housing shortage in Trinidad?
Yes, we do. Every place
Well,
does.
this will help a little bit.
Yep, thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, there's a program, I've worked on all kinds of these different things over the years where you have a specific agreement on a little bit of property. It's a bookkeeping headache for the Urban Renewal Authority, and that's my only caveat to you guys. You have to make sure you keep a track of how much you have to work with the assessor, and you have to work with the new owners. You have to get their tax bills and see how much money they're producing if you're going to use the TIF. But if you're not using the TIF and you just want them in there so the Urban Renewal Authority can contract with them, that's even easier. You just don't have to worry about making up costs. But most of the cities are worried that, or the taxing entities now there's going to be money here, and some of us have existing bills that the property owes. We have liens on the property. How are you going to pay them off? Well, you pay them off from a new developer coming in, but sometimes you have to give the developer a break on price to entice somebody to come in there, or maybe even the owner will work with you on this and say, if you help me clean up some of these problems that the property has, I'll clean it up and build something new. As soon as he gets whatever you want him to build on there, then he's earned the right to get reimbursed for something.
Well, our funding stack on this first kind of thing that we're testing the waters of is, I think it's $23,000 that's owed. That may come from TURA. $25,000 the city is putting together for bringing single-family housing back online. And so this very well be a TURA and city-funded projects that gets put back on the market. If it could be put back on the market and we could get TIF, all the better, because now we're funding these ongoing 31 properties. It sounds like it can be done, and I appreciate your time, Paul.
Well, you can replenish those funds from the TIF. I mean,
Exactly.
I don't know. I mean, why would you want to, it's okay to make grants, that's fine. I think that's wonderful, but one of the purposes of tax income and financing is to help finance these things so that, the city or the city doesn't get hurt. TURA doesn't have to, TURA maybe expend some funds up front, but maybe recoups them and keeps them in a fund to do the next little project. We're doing that over in Durango. It's not with the existing properties, but it works just the same. Where it can borrow money from the city and pay it back out of TIF. So, or from any entity.
Right.
You can work with the Bank of Trinidad or somebody, to help you with some of this stuff, as long as you have revenue to pay them back, and that would come from TIF.
Commissioner,
That's just one way to do it without, having to go through all the 1348 if you don't want to. As long as it's a minor modification, and you can meet with the taxing entities and the school district and explain it all to them and say, we don't want to do 1348 now because we have this 13 board member problem, or for whatever. You say we just want to work with our existing plan and see if you can do it that way. And then if you do need major changes down the road, you can always look at that. I just think these large areas are very hard to operate with 1348 and with the way TIF works, because we used to have plenty of funding from the federal government. We don't anymore, as you know.
Commissioner,
There's some money you can get from the Department of Local Affairs to help you too.
Chairman, Paul, this is Commissioner Luis Lopez. I just want to say thank you for your time. I have no questions for you, and I look forward to working for you and all of your insight. Thank you very much.
Mr.
Okay,
Head?
guys, I hope I helped. I mean, hope I didn't confuse you, and
No.
I sincerely apologize for fouling up tonight. I've had some problems. My wife's had her knee replaced, and I'm her caregiver of all things, which is a terrifying thought for her, I'm sure.
I understand, Paul, I'm terrified for her.
Okay. All right, well,
Hold 1 second.
I hope to come down there soon and meet all of you in person.
Hold on, Paul, just a second, I'm gonna see if anybody else has any questions for you.
All right.
Okay, if not, I will, from what we've been able to glean tonight, you will be hearing for me, I'm the point person, so as we gather stuff, I will be forwarding it on to you and questions and otherwise, so that we can get your expertise as we go forward.
Okay.
Paul, thank you.
Thank you very much, and nice meeting all of you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Our best to your life,
Thank you very much.
thank you. All right, commissioners.
Interesting.
Let me find my agenda so I can go back to it. So I did mention earlier that we would forego, well, to the end after we had our discussion with Paul. So what all, is there anything from here? You've already mentioned, it was mentioned more than once, Cougar Canyon. And so one thing we'll get that on there. I'm gonna ask that those, if you could put together information, we talked about it briefly, get that information so I can get it to the agenda so that everybody will know what we're going to do, what we're going to be talking about as we go on.
And let's put a scope together of what it is,
and that
because it's
was-
a pretty big beast.
And that was, when I mentioned last month that we, if we're gonna do things, it's gonna have to be by work of committees or whatever else, because for me to gather it all, I mean, if, the ideas are there, but I do need the assistance. So if you've got that information, get it to me so that I can get to the distributor, even if it's prior to agenda preparation. If you have it, we can get it distributed to everybody so they can begin reading and working on it.
Suggest the subcommittee, I would like to work with Commissioner Lopez on Cougar Canyon, and we both have things. I think I can facilitate a lot of his busy and take on a lot of that kind of the work kind of it, but I would love to have his brain and what he already knows about the project and what the county's doing. So would you be interested in us creating that?
Yeah. As long as it's not more than two persons.
That's what I'm.
Yeah.
Very good.
Secondly, then,
Sounds good.
and then you do talk to Commissioner Cochran.
Yes.
Okay,
We have numbers.
so relate to him that, we need to gather up more information as far as 1700 Arizona. I mean, I know that, at last,
I have a question about that one.
okay,
I know, you asked Paul about if we could buy it, refurbish it, sell it, and keep the money. I never quite understood what he said.
What he had said,
Yes.
he didn't specifically answer that.
Okay.
Okay, so that there wasn't a misunderstanding. He did share that that's something we could do. I think what his point that he tried to counter with though is, why would you do that when you can actually do a grant, or you can work with owners, or you can borrow some money? I think he didn't seem to be most appreciative of our approach, of our funding stack right now, and thought there were many other opportunities. That's what I got.
I think his process was amend your program we have right now to add those to the TIF for future revenue.
Yeah, and then funding, if we
Not
get
not just selling it,
Right.
Thank you, I was just a little,
Yeah.
I didn't
but,
feel.
that's gotta go to the
Yeah.
city first.
but while it's on there, and that would have to be the city.
Yeah.
But looking at that project, it has to be understood that, okay, to get that to happen, there's gotta be certain things happen ahead of it if you wanna capture that TIF. So, this one, that, if it becomes an agreement, that's fine, but by the time we reach the agreement with the city, how far is it forestalling that project? So that's not one where you say, okay, we're gonna have it, get that happen. They don't, I don't know if they're gonna happen, they won't happen in tandem. It's gonna have to be one.
It's linear, exactly.
Yeah, so, yeah.
A has to happen, then B can happen, then C
So
can
it's
happen.
got to go there. So that's one where, at last, my last conversation with the treasurer's office, like, you should probably, that was the end of November, there was over $27,000 that was due on that property, and certain methods have to be gone through in
Right,
order
before
to
you
finally
can-
acquire it.
And-
But I need, that's why I see, or I can get a hold of, I'll get a hold of Commissioner Cochran myself and tell him what needs to be done. There's gotta be some, the research on it, what.
And that subcommittee that he's
Yes,
now heading,
yes, yeah,
right, with
yeah,
regards to that,
right.
somebody's gonna help him, right?
Condition of property, there's gotta be, what is inside those four walls?
Exactly.
It's.
And what's the recipe?
It's vacant, been vacant for a long time, it's got a checkered past. And so it's.
And what's the recipe for us to actually make that work, and how do you not do it?
Yeah, so somebody, so.
Is there
so
a
lo-
need for a Brownsfield assessment on the property as
Yes,
well?
yeah, so all those things, so that, that's what we need to bring forward.
I think
So-
Commissioner Cochran has his work cut out for him,
Yes,
and it seems like something he's passionate about
Yeah.
moving
but
forward.
I will send communication to him as well, that way, when we bring it forward, we have the facts, as many facts as we can to at least begin conversations on it.
Yes, sir.
Okay? All right, so that's the work for, the understanding is that items for the discussion at the next meeting, for sure, are going to be the, as it relates to Cougar Canyon, what we know, where the formulation is on that, and then also, 1700 Arizona. Anything else for the work session? If not,
How likely is the city to be amenable to what we're doing? I mean, since I don't know
Okay.
anything, are they agreeable to having us work with these 31 properties? Are they agreeable to a cutout for Cougar Canyon?
we're not there yet.
We
Yeah,
have.
we don't know what their agreement is yet. That has to be, that's something we have to present it to them. They'll have to go through their legal consideration on it. So it's the amendment of a plan to say, where you don't get it for all of them, we would like to work on some of them. And, and if we work on some of those and we ultimately get it, we would like to have that TIF that it generates back to urban renewal. That's sometime into the future, but that's the possibility.
Yeah, and as a citizen of Trinidad, I don't really want them to open up all the TIF to TURA. You know what I mean? I kind of think, because they're running into
Yeah,
shortfalls.
Not in a position to do it.
They're not in a position to make that agreement. It's not in the best interest of what their mission is and where they're
Not
supposed
on
to be doing.
5100 park.
Exactly.
Not gonna
But, so I wouldn't, that's what I was saying. I wouldn't ask them to do that, but can we ask them to carve out some things? And I think we can make a compelling argument for that.
All right,
And I have
Anything
a
else?
crystal ball that'll give you all the answers, all you need is $1 million.
okay. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, with that being said, then, we're going to go to our regular meeting. It is 6:47 PM. It is January the 12th, 2023. This is the regular meeting of Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. Item number 1 is roll call, please.
Bagley, Cochran, Heck,
Here.
Howard,
Here?
Leone,
Here,
Lopez.
Here.
Grego.
Here. Item number 2, approval of the minutes for the December 2022 meeting. Information was provided to everyone. December the 8th, 2022. Advance information was sent to an agenda to all commissioners. You should have had an opportunity to review the information provided. Is there a motion?
Reviewed and make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Howlett.
I will second it.
Write this.
Oh, God.
Commissioner Howlett, you made a motion. Who made the second?
It
Music got to me.
was a good beat.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? Roll call.
Heck. Heck,
Present.
Yes, or
Yes.
no?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
To approve the minutes.
You're
Yes.
Leone,
Yes,
Lopez,
Abstain?
Grego.
Yes. Item number 4, acceptance of the financial report. Advance information was sent to commissioners in the packet. Hope you've had the opportunity to review and compare. Is there a motion?
can I have a question?
We can get on the floor first.
Please, I really don't
I
understand.
need a motion.
Motion to approve the financials.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Did you have a question regarding the financials?
Yes, and yeah, it's on the floor, now we can discuss it. Okay, Commissioner Leone, you have a question?
Yes, I really don't understand and I don't know if anyone can even answer this or maybe, but what's unfavorable?
Unfavorable means that there's a variance, and in these cases, you're going to see that we spent under budget is really what it is.
Okay,
So on all these lines that you're going to see, the amounts, you look at like $40,000 to TIF. It was budgeted for 40, we only got in 23,390, so there's a $16,000 variance. So we got under what we did. And as far as expenditures, it works out the same way. So we put a number on it, and it's balanced on a month-to-month basis based upon what it should be at that particular point. And in all those cases, what it is, what we got is less than what we thought it was going to be, but what we spent is also less than we expected to expend.
well, thank you, I just wasn't really sure what that was.
Yes, that's what it is. So, it just shows that it didn't hit those numbers that we did. In that cases, our revenue was down, but at the same time, our expenditures nowhere came close to what we had budgeted. So in that case, you see an ending cash balance for the year of 2022 of $352,702. So we got a motion and a second. And again, my comment, I'm sorry. I just, with that, you'll notice that we are in pretty sound financial condition at year's end. The only thing it is that you can see, and I mentioned it with Paul, $23,402 is the amount that we realized in 2022 for the 2021 collections. So it's down $16,598 from what we expected and what we had gotten in the year prior.
And we can expect a reduction in
So we were
2023.
expecting a reduction on that based upon those factors that the assessor gave us a few months ago. Questions, comments? Roll call.
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Leone,
Yes,
Lopez,
Yes.
Grego.
Yes. Item number 4, consideration of bills. Item number 1 is Cedar Street Printing for $33.29, and that is for printing that I had to have done to be able to provide the information to Commissioner Heck at the last meeting. I think that one extra copy. So that's what that bill involves. $33.29. Is there a motion?
And I read it over.
I make a motion to pay Cedar Street Printing $33.29.
Second.
Commissioner Leone makes the motion to accept with Commissioner Howlett on a second. Any further questions or comments? Roll call.
Yes.
Hawker, Howard,
Yes.
Leone,
Yes,
Lopez,
Yes.
Grego.
Yes. Item number 4B, petition, consideration of bills. Purgatory Valley Construction for the Americana Road Project, $46,070.34. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to pay the bill outstanding to Purgatory Valley Construction American Road Project in the amount of $46,070.34.
Signatures.
Contingent on signature.
Contingent on signatories.
Second motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Howlett to approve the bill to Purgatory Valley Construction, $46,070.34, contingent upon all required signatures affixed on the pay request. With a second by Commissioner Lopez. Further questions or comments? Roll call.
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Leone,
yes,
Lopez,
Yes.
Grego.
Yes. Item number 4, petitions or communications oral or written. Is there anyone present or anyone attending the meeting via GoToMeetings that would like to address or make a presentation to the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority? I will ask again, is there anyone present or anybody on GoToMeetings that would like to make presentation to or address the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority? Let the record reflect that there is no one that has come forward. Item number 6 is old business. None. Item number 7, new business. None. Item number 8, reports by executive director. Again, we have no executive director, but I, as a chairman, am working on conducting and presenting business that comes to the Trinidad Urban Renewal. Urban Renewal Authority, item number 1. I did confer with Attorney Paul Benedetti twice in the recent past in preparation for his presentation tonight. I sent him information relative to those things that we did discuss, so he had some advanced information on it. So that was twice that I've had discussions with him, and I provided those details in the notes that I provided in the agenda. Item number 2. I also wanted to know that I'd let everybody know that I did have a short meeting with City Manager Steve Ruger on the 20th of December. I did bring forward to him discussion, and he will is going to refer that to the city attorney, because we do have a cooperation agreement in place, somewhat dated at this point, but that gives us the opportunity and allows us to use his premises for our meetings, certain city staff to assist us in conducting our business. So that's out there. That was under discussion. They'll get back with me on it. Indicated to him that we had had discussions regarding updates to the TURA plan, not knowing where that might go. Did have some discussion with him related to the development agreement and the cost share agreement, cooperation agreement with La Puerta, which you just got a little bit of information or a little comment from Mr. Paul Benedetti. I did also relate to him, and this will be, at some point, we'll have him, maybe probably next month, invite him to this meeting, but I did refer to him your concerns, Commissioner Hollett, regarding certain things that have happened in the recent past, like the Housing Now project, or whatever they were, that TURA was not consulted or even advised in any way. So I told him that those are concerns, and he took those and said that at some point, not distant future, we could have some discussion on it.
Thank you.
Okay. Also, to let you all know that I did receive a call, and I think it was prompted by you, Commissioner Lopez, from Dana Crawford. She did in relationship to the Opera House, and wanted to know, I think Commissioner Lopez, you saw her at the legislative meeting. So I told her, it was a very short conversation. I told her, those possibilities always exist, but it's going to be, we have to know what's going on. There's going to have to be, a lot of information. So into the future that can happen, but to say exactly what we can do now and today is going to depend on where that project has, what its potential is in the future. She did say that there are some possibilities in the works right now.
Is she seeking help from TURA?
Well, she's not seeking help yet, but wants to know
If that door's open?
If that door is open, and quite possibly there is a possible, she mentioned that someone else was looking into the Opera House as well as another property that this could fall in. Yes.
No,
Not
raccoons.
Not as you know it, but yeah, it is. It's one of the most prominent historic buildings in the city of Trinidad. Main and commercial, right across from First National Bank. It's all boarded up.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, but anyway, yeah, she did. So just to let you all know that we did have a brief discussion on it, and that did come forward. I would also like to let you all know that I've had some brief discussions with, and will be compiling more information. But I will give you some. I did actually. Again, this is in the initial stages, but it will come to fruition. As you all are aware, the city of Trinidad did go to the ballot in November of 2022 and asked the voters if they would favor, and they did, the sale of the property known as the Hughes Lumber Company, Plum Street. And the voters did approve that. And so therefore, that was a property that will be for sale. The city of Trinidad has approached Urban Renewal Authority in its initial stages and has asked if we would be instrumental in assisting with the disposition of that property.
Yes.
And that being the case, and I did have in my conference with Paul Benedetti, he said, that's possibilities, I've done that in the recent past. We've done it in the not too recent past as well. But he said that we can, it's just a matter of having the city designate the parameters so that all the other paperwork can come together, it can go out to public for sale. And the city has agreed, this is something that's really the nice part of it, in my initial discussions, and we'll get it there, but the city of Trinidad has agreed that the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority will participate in the monies that are
The proceeds.
realized from the sale of that property.
Very good.
So that,
And right.
pardon me?
Very good and the right thing to be doing.
Yes, so, basically based upon the authority that the Urban Renewal Authority would have, and I've provided to you information regarding the ballot information and the Colorado revised section by which we can just, the disposition of property that we can do. We're familiar with that because we've already done it once in the not too distant past. So this one, you look at it, it does set a floor on how much that building may sell for on a number. It's 332,953,000 bucks. It's a process that we'll have to go through, but I expect to be able to have a lot more information available to Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority at the February 9th meeting, I believe.
Great work, Chair.
Been busy.
Yes. And ultimately, I just need to get the finishing touches so I can get the information submitted to DOLA for our 2023 budget filing, which is due January the 31st. When we meet next month, I will hopefully be telling you it was submitted and they accepted it. All right, that is the conclusion of what I have to present. Item number 9, reports by commissioners. I will start with you, Commissioner Cochran.
I have nothing.
Commissioner Lopez.
Commissioner Howland,
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Why do we do that?
I'm trying to go in alphabetical order, and he comes, see me.
That H threw you.
Okay, nothing from you, Commissioner Howard?
No, sir.
The only report, thank you, Chair, is that we did have that roundtable here at Trinidad State College. And a lot of information was given at that meeting from our state representatives and our federal representatives, senators and Congress, as well as our local officials, county updates as well, including the brief conversation I had with Dana Crawford regarding the Opera House, and reminded her that I was on the board of Urban Renewal and asked her to contact you to see where she is at with that. I did notice that one of the big large windows up on top looked like it's ready to cave and fall on somebody.
Yep.
And it's just getting more and more dangerous every day. I think our toolbox allows us to investigate or look into this along with the city of Trinidad. It's been boarded up for years and chain link around the top of it to hold it together. And I'm just worried that something can happen and someone get hurt. And then, so that conversation, I asked her to reach out to Chairman Grego, and she did. So I'm glad that that's happening and moving forward on that. The Front Range Passenger Rail, the board meeting, I met with them. I was unable to be here, so I apologize for that. But that is moving forward, and we're looking forward to progress possible for a rail, hopefully within the next 10 to 15 years, but it's a long process to get there. So that's it.
Very good.
Okay.
Nothing.
Mr. Leon.
Yes, it looks like we're gonna have some more property in Trinidad over there off of, is it Goddard? The new Station King Station?
Oh, the hotel?
No, it's corner of Goddard and I-25 is going to be, and it's going to be in front of the Planning Commission very soon. The city of Trinidad just passed something on it, and I think it's going to expand slightly by almost 2 acres, the northern boundary of the corporate
Or
limits.
the frontier?
Yeah, it's going to be a Maverick convenience store.
Maverick.
Yeah.
And where is that?
It'll be on the corner of, there's an old,
The Frontier
Yeah,
Motel.
it's a-
Another motel.
it's a derelict motel. That particular area will be redeveloped by this company called Maverick, MAVERIK, I believe it is. And I've seen some other convenience stores, up north, and they are excellent, they're beautiful, it'll take that it'll transform that corner beautifully.
Yeah.
And
So the sale did go through.
Evidently,
Well, it was
because,
in the paper the other day.
yeah, it was and it'll be in front of the planning commission on the 23rd, I believe. So
I heard about that months ago, but didn't know the
yeah,
sale.
the city, yeah, it's been advertised, it was in the news, advertised in the Chronicle News just about a week or two ago, that was coming before the city council. They, in their most recent meeting, did pass something related to it, and I don't know if it's annexation, honestly, it's what it is. They're gonna annex one, just short of 2 acres to make that a complete parcel for them to do it.
Nice.
Anything else?
Creates taxes.
Want you?
Yes, sir. All right, is there anything else? Do we need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I second that.
With a motion by Commissioner Lopez, with a second by Commissioner Leone. If there are no further questions, if there are no dissenting votes, we adjourn at 7:05 PM.
Thank you, everybody.